economics teacher said, got us into the Depression. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, as the Vice President pointed out, too.
I thought with the public, sure, the Vice President looking at Perot saying that's the politics of fear. That is what it sounded like. The passage that Bill remembers, it's like joining NATO, it's like the Louisiana Purchase. This is a big deal for America. If I were an undecided congressman, I don't think any of this would have decided me. I think I'd be looking forward to going home over the weekend. The Veterans Day holiday is coming up, talking to the folks back home, and I'd become decided next Monday or Tuesday. I don't think this would have done.
In other words, you're saying there wasn't new information that we heard tonight that's going to tilt one of those critical, 15, 20, 25 members who are still undecided.
I agree with what Senator Dole said. He said that the audience for this is really the undecided members of Congress, and they respond not to what they saw in the debate tonight, but to the issue as it's seen in their constituency. And what they've got to figure out is, where are they going to pay a price if they vote for NAFTA? Most members of Congress know that voting for NAFTA may be in the long-term interest of the country, but what about their own political interests? And Perot may have succeeded in one thing tonight, mobilizing, rallying his constituency, and communicating to those members of Congress, if you vote for NAFTA, you're going to pay a price for it.
Ex-Congressman Bill Frenzel, who's been lobbying Republicans, said the other day, I think most of the members on my side know that a yes vote is good for the Republic. They just wish somebody else would cast it.
But for the viewers, I hear what you're saying, that this was geared mostly to the undecided members of Congress. But for viewers out there who've been listening to the Perot argument, this is going to cost us jobs in the United States. Was there anything tonight that either bolstered or weakened that main argument that Perot's been making, Bruce?
Well, I think Perot had the stage to himself for a long time. The pro-NAFTA people got into the field relatively late. And here, for the first time, you had an articulate, reasonable person appearing in a lot of people's homes with Perot, with arguments more or less, give or take, as convincing as Mr. Perot's. I thought the Vice President sounded good, looked good, knew his case, and if you were prepared to be swayed away from the Perot case, this was a good evening where that might have happened to you.
All right, we want to break away now and go right to the floor of the United States House of Representatives, where Congressman Jim Baucus, rather the House gallery, sorry, not the floor. Congressman Jim Baucus, who has been on the fence on NAFTA, is now stating his position. Let's go there now.
By the debate between Vice President Gore and Ross Perot. In fact, my throat's a little worse because I found myself cheering so hard for Al Gore. He didn't seem to need my help. Ross Perot spoke of the fears and frustrations and resentment of the American people. Al Gore spoke of the hopes and aspirations in the future of the American people. And I believe that sums up the difference between those of us who are for NAFTA and many of those who are not. In my own district, I believe my constituents will profit considerably from the enactment of the North American Free Trade Agreement. In particular, I believe we will keep and create more, and especially more high-paying, high-tech jobs throughout Central Florida. I believe that will also be true throughout Florida and throughout America. I'll give you one example. The largest employer in my district is a company called Harris Corporation. Harris represents literally tens of thousands of people. They have 12,000 employees. There are about 50,000 of my constituents who are in the families of the Harris Company. Harris makes semiconductors and computer parts and telecommunications equipment in my district now, and ships a lot of those products to Mexico. In fact, Mexico, they tell me, is their fastest growing market. Right now, the Mexicans have tariffs of 20% and 25% on those products. Harris has to pay those tariffs before entering that growing Mexican market. In spite of this, Harris has resisted the urge to move to Mexico. But they have a new temptation to do so. The Japanese have begun to locate plant to compete with Harris in Mexico.
Democratic Congressman Jim Baucus of Florida, who until tonight was officially undecided on how he was going to vote on NAFTA, and yet Bruce Morton and Bill Schneider were sitting here talking about this. This is someone the White House felt strongly was going to go their way, but they were holding this announcement in reserve. Is that fair to say, Bill?
Yeah, they wanted to create the impression that this man had suddenly changed his mind from watching the debate. They announced this afternoon that they would have someone there who's going to come out for NAFTA. Somebody would make the announcement right after the debate to create the impression that the debate was,
that there was
momentum. They wanted to create the impression of momentum.
But in any event, he's announced it formally.
Well, and in fact, they are getting some momentum. There were, I think, 5 converts earlier today.
Yeah.
All right, Bruce Morton, Bill Schneider, thank you. Who will be the winners and losers in the controversy over NAFTA? Up next, we will speak with representatives of people who have a keen interest in the outcome.
The final curtain comes down on the fallen empire of Charles Forsyth King. From a small investment firm, he built a dynasty that ruled Wall Street. Times were good, but times change.
King's mistake was in preferring paper money to paper itself. He should have invested in timber.
What he thought was a bull market began to bear down on him.
I kept telling him, Charlie, you hit a brick wall, buy bricks. He worked us day and night. All that electricity. Too bad we didn't have our money in coal.
Where once stood a mighty Xanadu was now a ravaged financial ruin.
Well, it tells me that he failed, but not why. Hey, what were his last words?
They say it was one word, the one thing he wished he had.
Hansen.
There are those who say that America is having a hard time getting off the ground. They say that the American spirit no longer soars. That the American worker no longer rises to the occasion. And that American companies no longer reach for the stars. But we'll just continue to introduce evidence that says otherwise.
Central to the debate over NAFTA is the focus on jobs. How many U.S., Mexican, and Canadian jobs will be lost in the short term? What can be gained in the long term? And what are the chances for future prosperity for all 3 nations should NAFTA fail? Well, here to discuss all those ramifications, Lawrence Bossidy, Chairman and CEO of Allied Signal Incorporated, Raul Izaguirre, President of the National Council of La Raza, the National Hispanic Advocacy Group, William Bywater, Vice President of the AFL-CIO and President of the International Union of Electronic Workers, and Lori Wallach, Director of the Trade Program for Public Citizen, a consumer and environmental action group founded by Ralph Nader. Beginning with you, what struck you most about this debate?
I think that Mr. Gore picked on Mr. Perot, that Mr. Perot laid out the diverse arguments of the broad anti-NAFTA coalition so that he laid out one more time that jobs will be lost, wages will go down, taxes will go up, and as your commentators pointed out, that will simply jazz up folks at home, and that's where the decision is going to be made. For months, people have been working on their members of the House of Representatives, telling them we're going to remember about this vote, this is very big, and there'll be a lot more of this Veterans Day weekend. That's what will decide.
Mr. Izaguirre, what struck you?
I think this was a great evening for the proponents of NAFTA. I felt that the Vice President laid out the case very factually, very calmly. He dealt with the non sequiturs of Ross Perot. Ross Perot would try to impute all the problems of the world into Mexico and our trade agreements, and I think very carefully and skillfully, the Vice President just blew him away, to use a current phraseology. So it was a very good evening. I think, as your commentators have indicated, the Vice President won this debate hands down.
William Bywater.
Yes. Well, first of all, I think that Vice President Gore actually stretched the truth quite a bit. When he talked about the agreement itself, that agreement is the Bush agreement. It isn't the Clinton agreement. The side agreements he talked about for labor and environmental concerns doesn't mean anything. It's just jawboning. That's all it is. There's no agreement that you can be enforced with the Mexican government. It's just simply to talk to them about it. And when he talked about Salinas saying that he's going to give raises, again, that was a promise. That's not in any agreement. So you can talk about those things, but unless it has teeth in it, it doesn't mean anything.
What struck you, Lawrence Bossidy?
I thought that it was an interesting evening. I thought the Vice President talked about hopes as opposed to fears. He talked about tomorrow as opposed to yesterday. He talked about winning and competing as opposed to withdrawing and losing. He talked about a country that can be great as opposed to one that would shrink into isolationism. I always thought that Mr. Perot had a weak hand here. He had a chance to play his cards tonight and he essentially folded. He talked a lot about the problems that Mexicans shouldn't like this, an imputed fascism in Mexico, the budget problem, the health problem. It sounded to me like he was interested more in a presidential run than he was talking about the NAFTA.
Okay, let's go to the bottom line. In your collective judgments, what was said tonight by these two men in this studio on that set over there? What was said by these two men that would move votes one way or the other? Anybody?
I think it was clear tonight that this agreement promotes jobs in this country. That's what it's about. It's about tomorrow. We get in not only to Mexico, but we get access to the rest of Latin America. It's a wonderful opportunity for us, and we have to take advantage of it.
I don't agree with that. I think, first of all, this agreement is free lunch for multinational corporations and the banks. That's really what it amounts to. The workers themselves are on the short end of the stick in regard to this. Their standard of living is not going to be raised by this agreement. In fact, if anything, it's going to be kept down because Salinas wants to get more and more American firms to move down there. And we're going to lose jobs. And the fact is that even the Department of Labor is already getting ready for retraining. They're talking about something like 20,000. It's going to be a lot more than 20,000 have to be retrained.
I think in this debate particularly, it's not the issue. NAFTA will be decided by the American people communicating to their members of Congress. They've been doing it for months in an unprecedented grassroots campaign, which is why $35 million of Mexican government lobbying money, $30 million of corporate money, the presidency, has not, in fact, moved the votes. Folks at home are making it very clear. They think this is going to cost their jobs. And they've seen the model, and they're going to remember this vote.
That sounds like a threat to me, but what impressed me about the debate tonight was the fact that we talked about it in terms of the United States and Mexico only. This is the North American Free Trade Agreement. Notice that in the dialogue there wasn't any mention about Canada. It was as though the argument against NAFTA rested on whether or not Mexico is like us. It sounded like if there's a problem with Mexico, we shouldn't have any relations with them. And of course the consequence of that is that we can only trade with perfect countries. And obviously that would mean a loss of American jobs.
I would just like to say about the jobs, this is a spark plug, an Autolite spark plug. It's made in Fostoria, Ohio. We make 18 million of them. We're going to make 25 million of them. The question is, where are we going to make them? Right now, you can't sell these in Mexico because there's a 15% tariff. If this NAFTA is passed and that tariff is removed, we'll make these in Fostoria, Ohio. We won't have 1,100 jobs, we'll have more jobs. More than that, there's a casing on this, which is made by a little company in Sydney, Ohio, with 35 employees. They also will be a part of this NAFTA approval. This is a small part of a car. We export 4,000 cars to Mexico today. We'll export 60,000 cars in the first year. That's 15,000 jobs.
William Bywater looks like he's itching to respond to that as a labor man.
Well, first of all, let me say this, that, the multinational corporations have polluted Mexico, and they haven't picked up the bill at all. They have no intention of picking up the bill. No one's asking them to. They are the ones that should be picking up the bill for the pollution in Mexico. As far as the workers are concerned, I don't hear those pro-NAFTA people being concerned about the livelihood of the Mexican workers who are getting, for example, in the electronic industry, anywhere from 60 cents to $1 an hour. And that's why they cross the border in order to get $4.25 an hour, and that's why you have so many illegals entering California.
Bill, I talk to workers a lot.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I talked to some of your own members. As a matter of fact, your own membership in Chicago voted to support NAFTA. I think
well, not my members.
Your folks in Chicago, one of your chapters.
IUE, no. Maybe you talk about IBW.
Well, we'll check our figures.
Okay,
we'll check our facts.
It's not the IUE.
I believe the fact of the matter is that when you explain it to workers, that this means good-paying jobs, that we shouldn't have to compete on low-wage jobs, that we're talking about high-tech jobs, information jobs,
but they're
that
not
they believe it, and this is indeed about jobs, and it means American jobs.
Let's go to Lori Wallach because we have surprisingly less than 1 minute left.
I wanted to get back to this point about Canada, because Canada did come up in the context of the U.S.-Canada agreement. And this gets to NAFTA. NAFTA is not about tariffs, really. It's an investment agreement about allowing capital to move and jobs with it to lower wage, lower environmental cost environments. And as was pointed out in the debate very briefly, Canada lost a lot of jobs. Vice President Gore simply was not stating the case when he said it was a good deal for both countries. Canada lost like we will under NAFTA.
If we don't pass NAFTA, how will that impede investment in Mexico?
I thank all four of you. Regrettably, we're out of time, but we appreciate your coming in and sharing your thoughts with us tonight. More of our special report in a moment.
Yeah, I'll marry you.
Wonderful! I'm calling everybody in France. Only, I'm an AT&T. I pay the highest first minute and additional minute rate, 7 a.m., 1 p.m. 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. is a little better. I have to wait until after 6 for the real discount.
Why wait? MCI has a new way you can call anytime. Now we give you low fixed rates 24 hours a day, plus the lowest priced international calls to any 2 numbers.
You know, since I've had all this time to think.
For the easiest way to save on international calls, join friends around the world anytime.
See that little black square on your Buick Park Avenue's key? It's worth a lot of money because it can save you a substantial amount on auto insurance. It's an electronic device that activates your ignition. You can drive your car, but a would-be thief cannot. You won't find this feature on Mercedes or Lexus. You will find it on Park Avenue from Buick, the new symbol for quality in America.
There's a new style in business, a new school of personal expression. That's why we created Cambridge Software, a softer, more stylish way to keep organized. Business accessories detailed in real leather, durable yet very fashionable. Cambridge Software, part of a whole new style of doing business.
Tonight on Sports Tonight, we've got all the NBA basketball, and I mean a full slate plus hockey. But the big story, though, is the National League's most valuable player. Can you guess? Yes, Barry Bonds. We'll have the full story coming up tonight at 11 Eastern Time. Join us.
I want this to be the final battle.
Critics call it a masterpiece. Could be the film of the decade. Powerful, breathtaking, 4 stars, awesome, remarkable, amazing, stunning, extraordinary, passionate, jaw-dropping, fascinating, a 10+, an epic, the big screen spectacular of the fall, Oscars aplenty, Gettysburg, rated PG, now playing at a theater near you.
Some people are still wondering if PIP does multicolor printing. The answer is yes, we do a little. Enough to fill this little football field every day. Color printing. One more reason PIP printing is the best business printer in the business.
Now it's even easier to get miles with some of the world's leading airlines. Just stay here after landing. Check into Holiday Inn and get ready to take off on a great vacation. Holiday Inn.
Your world is about to become a little smaller. those important to you a whole lot closer. Because now, across the U.S. and Canada, leading cellular communication companies have come together to create the most extensive cellular service ever. So now, staying in touch is as simple as a phone call.
Hello? I've been waiting for your call.
Introducing MobileLink. To order service, call 1-800-995-4000.
They've gone head-to-head and squared off on the issues. I'm Mary Tillotson. So who won? And has the great debate changed anybody's mind? We'll talk about it on CNN and Company, 11:30 Eastern, tomorrow.
In at least one residence in the nation's capital, tonight's debate was watched very intently. For the word on the president's reaction, we go to CNN senior White House correspondent Wolf Blitzer, live at the White House. Wolf?
Judy, we're told here at the White House that the president did indeed watch the entire show from the residence over here upstairs, and he was very excited, very pleased, of course, by the performance by his vice president. Officials here say that the vice president was concise, was competent, he showed a whole lot of confidence, and they're especially delighted that he seems to have won a commitment from Mr. Perot to release the funding of United We Stand, Mr. Perot's organization, how much money they've spent to try to defeat NAFTA. All in all, says one official, if it would have been a fight, they would have called it. Wolf Blitzer, CNN, reporting live from the White House.
All right, Wolf, thanks. I guess that means I think it's important how much money the Perot side has been spending on all this this campaign. We'll see. Well, that's it for this special report on the NAFTA debate. CNN will replay the debate tonight at 12:30 a.m. Eastern Time and again at 10 a.m. Eastern on Wednesday. I'm Judy Woodruff. Good night, Bernie.
Good night, Judy. I'm Bernard Shaw. CNN Sports Tonight is coming up next, and here's Fred Hickman with a preview of what's ahead.
Bernie, Judy, thank you. We've got a big show of our own tonight. The National League's most valuable player is named. We will reveal his identity. Also, we will see the stick, the young man taking on the veteran in NBA basketball action. Vince Cellini and yours truly in just a moment.
Sports Tonight is next here on CNN. For an update on the day's top stories, you can turn to Headline News. Check local listings for channel number.
On Wednesdays, Patco wants to help you make it a night in Center City, Philadelphia by taking you there quickly, in comfort, without the hassles of driving and parking. Because the city will be open late every Wednesday night, shops will be brimming with bargains. Restaurants and movie theaters will offer discounts, and everyone from theater companies to the mummers will be out to entertain you. So let Patco help you make it a night. For travel information, call 772-6900. Make it a night. Make it a habit.
Get ready. The ultimate. The best of the best. Get set. You have to draw to see who your partner is. You win it. You both get to go on to Battle Bowl. Battle Bowl. I get to Battle Bowl, I won't need my partner anymore. And every man for himself. Who will win this ultimate challenge of skill, luck, and survival? World Championship Wrestling presents Battle Bowl. Saturday, November 20th, live. Only on pay-per-view.
How do your contributions to the Jewish National Fund help Israel? When housing sites must be cleared, when the earth needs to be transformed, when the children are in need, when faced with a monumental task. In every way, the Jewish National Fund and you are the guardians of this promised land. Help fulfill the promise.
Hello, I'm Catherine Crosby, alerting women aged 50 to 80 to the dangers of osteoporosis, a disease which affects 25 million Americans. Each year, the disease causes 1.5 million fractures, including 500,000 fractures of the spine, 300,000 of the hip, and 200,000 of the wrist. A research study of a new medication is being conducted in your area. Volunteers receive free evaluation. Call now for information.
This is CNN.